Hello everyone, it is Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. Today we're looking at a Spiritomb, Honchkrow, Umbreon deck, kind of like a Dark Toolbox style build. Kind of first brought to us by Grant Manley after his performance at Origins. I believe he got top 4 with the archetype. And the concept is to try and use the non-GXs of Spiritomb and Umbreon to tackle some tag teams and other like GX matchups, whilst having Honchkrow-GX in here to improve your time against the likes of Weezing and Zoroark, which would otherwise be very awkward for Spiritomb. Obviously, Zoroark plays Muck. That shuts down your Spiritomb damage for the most part. And the Weezing is obviously very terrible because, again, you're a basic that has to like damage himself, which just leads into a Weezing having a really good matchup. Now we're just going to use Honchkrow to sit in the active and not necessarily just win a prize race, but sometimes just sit there with Ruler of the Night, stopping the opponent from doing any damage to you. And in some situations, you will deck them, to be honest. And in combination with like enhanced hammer that we have in here as well, Zoroark of course can Guzma around Honchkrow for a few turns, maybe get attachments here and there. We're going to try and enhance hammer them off when that does happen. Weezing also plays like 1 or 2 gusting effects as well, so when you get to this point where Honchkrow is your only Pokemon left, sitting there with his very annoying Ruler of the Night ability, your opponent can't attack you. Basically, that's the whole idea. And then you can start just slowly using Featherstorm to take the prize if you really want to, or you can deck them out depending on the situation that you're kind of in, depending on how like damaged the Honchkrow is and stuff like that. So yeah, very interesting archetype. It does have a few poor matchups here and there. It doesn't like seeing Stall, doesn't like seeing Shedinja, and really doesn't like seeing Zapdos. Those are the ones that you are a little bit wary of. Zapdos being basically like a more consistent version of this deck itself. Because it's hard for us to take the initial prize in that matchup. Oftentimes, Spiritomb is a lot slower than Zapdos, just coming in and swinging for 80 and initiating that race. We're going to need a turn or two of building Spite and trying to find Rainbow and stuff to try and start dealing with like their Jirachis early and hoping that building Spite eventually alongside Umbreon builds up to that point where it can knock out Zapdos in response, all that good stuff. But typically they'll kick off against you, and as long as they keep a stadium left to bounce Black Market, or as long as they have enough Guzmas and ropes, which, you know, Zapdos plays like 2 rope for Guzma at the very least, so typically they aren't phased by Black Market and they'll out-prize race you. But outside of those bad matchups, you cover a lot, so we'll be going through the deck today. This is not actually that similar to Grant's list. Grant played an Elm build. I've much preferred Lily. Grant played like 4 Pokegear, 4 Elm, and 4 Cynthia as the only draw supporters. I hated it. I really didn't like that. It's very fragile against Let Loose, even with the 4 Jirachi that he played. I feel much more confident by having those 4 Nest Balls, which gives you high outs to Oranguru and Jirachi if you are getting hit with Let Loose, whilst also having 8 draw supporter outs. Pokegear isn't guaranteed to find yourself your 4 of Cynthia. It's actually not the best odds, to be honest, when you only have 4 live targets and Pokegear's digging 7 cards deep. It's not that great. So I'm much more happy having 8 physical draw supporters as well as extra search ability for Oranguru and Jirachi in those opening turns, thanks to the addition of 4 Nest Balls. So I think this is much more safe and straightforward compared to the Elm. The upside of the Elm's build is you can get like 3 Spiritomb literally put down all in one turn, and they can all start building Spite, which I understand the sort of mentality there, but I feel overall with 4 Nests, 2 Common, 2 Ultra Ball, we have good outs to find enough Spiritombs early, whilst also getting our main game plan rolling. So I prefer the Lily engine after playing a few games earlier today. So let's jump into the list. Starting off with those 4 Jirachis, kind of what hikes the price up of this deck outside of being like a budget rogue. Now, just using that Stellar Wish is going to mean we can dig towards some combo pieces. Hustle Belt's definitely a really important tool card that we have in the deck to push our damage output. Finding lots of Guzmas to target GXs if possible is always great. And, you know, just extra consistency, finding our draw supporters, and even Viridian can get us into our energy cards and stuff like that. So Stellar Wish is something we take, you know, turn by turn. We're not playing quite as many switching outs as like Zapdos. We don't play the physical switches and the ropes. So it's just really trying to get access through Escape Board or Guzma, but even then it can get us a few extra cards here and there, which is always great for maintaining our non-GXs in those sorts of matchups and getting some key pieces out if they are important. As mentioned, like Hustle Belt, E-Hammer, these are some cards you might want to pull out in certain situations. Then we have the 4 copies of Spiritomb. Building Spite is an ability that allows you to put a damage counter on him each turn. Why would you want to do this? Well, it's to increase his damage output. Anguish Cry does 30 more damage for each counter on him, and it has a base of 10. So After one building spite, your Anguish Cry is doing 40 or 70 if you attach a rainbow that turn. So theoretically, you can knock out some evolving basics and like Jirachi's going second on turn 1. So we can be fairly fast against some of these things if you are able to run into your rainbow energy. But typically this is going to be just literally building spite on the bench for a couple turns in those opening stages, and then getting into this big damage output. Your maximum damage output with 5 damage on yourself is 160 base, and then you're able to do an additional 60 thanks to Hustle Belt. So this can knock out Zoroarks and whatnot, which is pretty cool. Obviously against Zoro itself, we're not going for that game plan for the majority of the time. But it can knock out, you know, Lele's, the Denes, Zeraora, and that covers a good amount of stuff, to be honest. And you're two-shotting tag teams very, very easily. So that's the whole idea here. Anguish Cry is a very powerful attack when you give it enough time. From there, we have a 2-2 line of Umbreon, obviously taking advantage of Energy Evolution. So we're kind of like a cheating basic Pokemon. With that Retaliate attack, does 30 and 90 more if one of your Pokemon was knocked out last turn. This is really nice. As mentioned, Spiritomb sometimes need time. And if we're just going to have a bunch of non-GXs in the sort of like in play, your opponent takes the lead and you can try and just continue to retaliate with your Umbreon in those opening turns whilst building spite in the background with our Spiritombs. So we're presenting a threat with the Umbreon whilst also like building towards a game plan on the bench with a bunch of Spiritombs. That's the whole idea. We have this 2-2 line of Honchkrow-GX. Quick note on Murkrow, it can try and trap things with Mean Look. But the Honchkrow, as mentioned earlier, Ruler of the Night is a very strong ability against Weezing, which is completely reliant on special energy cards, as well as most Zoroark builds, which are also completely reliant on special energy cards. So having this sit in the active forces the opponent into a bad spot where essentially they can't attack you for the majority of the game, which is excellent. Weezing can't even put down Shrine against you, so Honchkrow is just not receiving damage at all. And although we don't play DCE, we can build towards this Featherstorm attack and just start doing 90 damage, which is fine. If you're against Zoroark, you're also getting that 30 to 2 of your opponent's bench GX and EX. That can set up, you know, other Zoroarks or, again, Lele's and whatnot to try and get into range, depending on how many Featherstorms you sort of have at your disposal. You also have this unfair GX attack for 2 colorless. Your opponent reveals the hand and you discard 2 cards from it. This is really nice, specifically against the Zoroark matchup, because you want to get rid of the likes of their Palpads, their Guzmas, because you don't want them gusting around the Honchkrow much, because you want this Ruler of the Night to stay in play against them so they can't attack you. And if they are using Guzmas and whatnot in those opening turns to get attachments of DCE, we do have those couple of enhanced hammers in there. So yes, they can gust around Honchkrow, take a knockout on something else. You come back into Honchkrow, E-hammer them, and then the Ruler of the Night's re-established, and the opponent is stuck in a bad situation. So we will slowly grind out Zoroarks and Weezings just by eventually being a board state of just a lone Honchkrow in play, and your opponent can't deal with him. That's the idea here. So he doesn't come out in every matchup. He's literally just there for those 2 critical matchups. But he covers, you know, that's a lot of decks out there right now. 2 very popular archetypes, probably 2 of the top like 10 decks right now. So I think Honchkrow is worth the 4 spaces in here to flip-flop some otherwise very bad matchups. Zoroark would be horrible for you. You would end up having to like track down a Muck and slowly build Spite with your Spiritomb and hope that like Hustle Belt can get you over the line, but it's really difficult when they're shutting down your Stellar Wishes, your Instructs, even shutting down Energy Evolution, so it's not easy for you to track down those Mucks in the first place as soon as they get that established. So this way we're trying to target Zoroark in a different approach, and I think alongside the E-Hammers, I'm a lot more confident that this approach will work. Grant's list initially didn't play E-Hammer, and I'm worried about the Zoroark matchup when you're not playing any E-Hammers, because they will gust around you, and they'll get attachments down, and sometimes, you know, we're only doing 90 with Featherstorm, and it's 3 manual attachments, which is slow. If they just get an early Guzma, DCE, smack, like something else, you bring up Honchkrow, then it's just going to take a couple hits, and it's going to get really ugly for you. So I think the E-Hammers help you lock out that matchup a lot easier, which is really important. We're going to play 1 copy of Mew. Bench Barrier is very important for denying Pikarom, that easy 2-prize swing. Also, another great defense against spread in general. If there's going to be any like random Tapu Kokos and whatnot, you are really worried about that. If you are trying to get in high damage range for Anguish Cry, this Mew can protect you from that sort of stuff, which is nice. We also have the Psi Power option, which puts 3 counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way that you like. This is actually pretty good against things like Pikarom again, as an attacking presence, because you can put 2 counters on a Pikarom, meaning that a Hustle Belted 5 damage Spiritomb can knock them out later down the line. So you can Mew to put some damage counters in the right places. And the Pikarom matchup is certainly one that I have on the radar for like math fixing. So you can like one-shot them later with the Spiritomb, which is pretty nice. Then we have Instruct in here just as another like backup to keep us drawing cards alongside the Stellar Wish throughout the game. So that's a nice sort of consistency booster, protection against Let Loose and all that good stuff. Onto the item cards, it's relatively simplistic. The double E hammer I've mentioned for the Zoroarks and the Weezings that establish energies before Honchkrow comes online. You can remove them and then you're free to go. You have the double Stretcher to recycle whatever Pokemon you want, the Spiritomb or the Umbreon for the most part, and the Honchkrow if it's the important matchup. Obviously Mew if it's going to get targeted by Pikaroms. Then we have 2 Pokecom. Pokecom is very vital when you have the Umbreon itself. Whenever this card is in your hand, you want to get it back into your deck so you can Energy Evolution and cheat it out into play much more easily. And it's again just improving out into finding like Honchkrow and stuff in the matchups where he's useful. Double Ultra Ball, again trying to do the same thing, lowering your hand size for Instruct draws as well as just finding like multiple Spiritomb in those early turns, finding Jirachi and whatever else you need. For Nespel, gathers pretty much everything but the Honchkrow, so that's very good. For stadiums, we're going to play that one Black Market Prism Star Stadium card. It does give us a good fighting chance against pretty much any non-GX matchup where you're doing a back and forth the entire time, and then at some point you can drop this Black Market, force them to have an extra gusting effect. Sometimes they don't always have the outs, force them to have a counter stadium card. And that's something we have at our disposal. That's why we're also playing 2 Viridians to try and contest that stadium war in the early turns, whilst also giving us good access to our relatively low energy count of 9 energies. Stellar Wish being an out to now find Viridian to get us into energy cards turn by turn is obviously very helpful, but this is mainly here to sort of represent a stadium war so that Black Market can come in late game and maybe your opponent doesn't have the answer at that point in the game. From there, we have 4 copies of Guzma, very high, but this is a similar shell to Zapdos, really, at this point. Now that I've changed from Elm to like a Lily Nespal, this does feel very Zapdos-like in many ways. So having these Guzmas to target, like I said, Lele's, Dedenes, Zeraoras, stuff like that is pretty good for Spiritomb to take knockouts. Obviously, there are Reshizards now playing Lele, Dedenne and stuff, which is good for you. And even in those early turns, it's quite easy for Spiritomb to knock out things like Jirachi and Marshadow and stuff. So taking those early prizes with Anguish Cry, even though you don't have many damage counters on yourself, can really help us tempo out on the opponent, which is pretty important. Then we have the 4 Lily for Cynthia. As mentioned, I think I prefer this to the Elm. It's just a much better safeguard against Let Loose, which I'm still like in permanent fear of in this format. So I think the Lily overall outclasses Elm. I think like if Elm could grab like the Jirachi, I'd probably just stick with it, but the Lily is just so much stronger for getting you Nespal into Jirachi and Guru. So you just have like so many more outs to draw cards with a Lily build, I think. 3 Escape Board, so that you can pivot between your Stellar Wishes, of course, and it means you can free retreat on everything but the Honchkrow and the Monkey, which both have 2 retreat costs. The Eevee does have a 2 retreat cost as well, but as long as you can like attach an energy, it means you can get out of there anyway with Umbreon. You have 3 Hustle Belts to go onto your Spiritomb for the most part to increase your damage output. In random spots, possibly it could get in range for like your Umbreon or something, but it's usually just for the Spiritomb himself. Essentially, it's like a double choice band in one card when you're down to 30 hit points or less, which is excellent. Those rainbows really help speed up the process of getting damage on your Spiritomb, so it's effectively like having an Electro Power in an energy card, essentially, is how you have to look at it. So it's something that you definitely want to bear in mind. And then 5 physical dark energies as basics, helpful for evolving with energy evolution and, just extra outs for your Spiritombs and Honchkrows throughout the game. There are a few other cards you could consider in this list. Ditto Prism Star is the first one that I cut from Grant's list. I found it relatively unimpressive, although it is like a pseudo third Murkrow and Eevee. It's a really bad Eevee because you can't cheat into Umbreon very easily. You actually have to have it down on for a turn, and also Murkrow and Honchkrow, like you play a 2-2 line mainly so that you don't prize one of those pieces in a matchup where he's critical, but typically one Honchkrow will see you through when you're in a Weezing or Zoro matchup. That's how I foresee it going down, so I don't think you need that like third Murkrow. So you could consider just having a third physical Eevee in the deck, but right now I've made the space and cut the Ditto for now. I don't think it's all that useful. Absol's another card you could consider. You can end up attacking with this card if you really want to. If you wanted to weave in like a DC in the deck for helping out like Psychic and even speeding up Featherstorm, you can think about adding in Absol. He'd be a little bit of an irritation for Zapdos players, also offering another attacking presence, which is unexpected really for a lot of people as well, so something to potentially bear in mind. Buzzwole is another card that I've considered. I don't think you're naturally that strong against Pika-Rom, because they will oftentimes play at least a couple Zapdos, and they also have 240 hit points, which even Spiritomb can't one-shot. So having a Buzzwole turn, you know, when we're already having Mew, you can try and force it and have an easy way to respond on one of these Pika-Roms and completely trade up on them, which is pretty nice. Professor Kukui is another card I've considered in the deck. Seeing as that Anguish Cry only does that 40 damage baseline, if you play like a couple Kukuis early, you're then hitting that 60 damage baseline, which is a lot better. If you're the one going second, you can knock out now like Zaruas and like Inkay is another evolving basics, which is something to bear in mind. Additionally, having like a Kukui or two means that your Spiritomb can now max out at 240, which then means you can one-shot a Pika-Rom in the late game, which would be insane. So I can definitely consider putting in one Kukui if you're finding Pika-Rom a difficult matchup. It's not something I looked at like initially, but it's something that I am kind of a fan of. Also, cut from Grant's list was Adventure Bag as a one-of. I just don't think it's all that relevant right now. It's rare that you want to grab yourself Escape Board and Hustle Belt in like the early turns, because it takes a while for you to build Spite, essentially. So outside of Adventure Bag, like deck thinning +1 card for you, I don't find it all that valuable. Usually you're just looking for the Escape Board itself in the early turns, and Hustle Belt is kind of one of these things you can wait until later down the line to actually get value from. So yeah, that's kind of the list. I've had a few games of the deck. I actually do quite like it. It's impressed me so far, and I definitely prefer the Lily build, I think, from what I've tested so far today. Obviously the archetype's kind of fresh, so there may be changes, like more changes along the way, but that's kind of my initial impressions of the archetype from how I've gone with it all day today. So let's get some games in. Got a really ugly opening hand. Double Honchkrow is scary. We only have one basic in Jirachi. No supporter right now, so we're really going to have to hope this Stellar Wish is going to be helpful. Cynthia wouldn't be too shabby. Any Ball Search card would be nice. There is a Cynthia out the gate. It looks like we're up against a stalling archetype, just because we're looking at Lugia. We have no hand disruption as well. You could think about adding in Marshadow or Judge into the deck as well to improve your stalling matchups. So something to bear in mind. Against stall, it's really down to their hand, to be honest. We can't ever reach one-hit KOs on them. We're limited to 9 energy cards, so if you wanted to tech for stall, you could add in Titanizer, Judge, Power Pad, and Resource Management, and then you'd be pretty reasonable against them. But at the moment, I don't have those tech cards, so we're just hoping that it's difficult for them to find Stevens and stuff in the opening turns as we try and put early pressure on with Spiritomb, but it's going to be pretty rough here. There's a lot of cards that are irrelevant in our deck. Things like the Umbreon, definitely not helpful. Unless we are going to see a Vileplume later down the line. I'm just going to attach and pass here. I have beaten a stall earlier today, but they didn't have Stevens for the first like 4 turns, so I was able to take some like easy prizes. And the opponent is able to gear into Stevens, so this cannot be good news for us. Our damage output is relatively high, and it is difficult for them to like chain Plumerias, but once they get into that Lusamine loop, they will run us out of stuff. So something to bear in mind. Let's keep our opponent honest and make sure they're playing well to get around the Spiritomb. He is a non-Jex attacker that can knock out Regigigas and Hooper all in one shots, even if they are having like Ancient Crystal involved. So I don't think it's like necessarily an absolute auto loss, but we could definitely be teching harder for it, and we're currently not. So something to bear in mind. We definitely want to try and find ourselves a skateboard here, so we can start putting pressure on this Lugia. We whiff from the initial Cynthia. We also whiff off the Stellar Wish, which kind of hurts. We've drawn into a lot of energy cards as well. But we can keep building Spite here. Don't think we want to nest ball much else out. The reason I got a second Spiritomb down was to actually play around stuff like Lost Purge GX or anything like that. Or, you know, sometimes they can attack us with Lucario Melmetal for knockouts because we are such a glass cannon type attacker. Anything can really poke us for a knockout. So something to bear in mind. But so far, no pressure on this Lugia. We're just going to try and wait at this point to try and build up enough spite to go for one-shots, I guess, rather than try and two-shot into this Lugia, because it plays into their healing cards anyway. The opponent is able to continue to Stevens, though, which is a bit worrying. You never really want to give them too much time against you. They didn't Stevens for an Oddish or anything like that, so I feel like the Umbreon is pretty good to like get rid of. I'm not going to Viridian any more energies because it will just play into a Skullgrunt type move, so I think we'll Stellar Wish here. Just find Cynthia. And we'll just pass. We'll eventually find our Escape Board. Eventually. You see a Power Plant, just to remove our Viridian, I guess. More Gigas comes into play. There's an Ancient Crystal. See another Stevens. It comes over to us. So we continue to build spites. There's a board. So we're going to wait until we have Hustle Belt to try and one-shot this Lugia. The opponent's going to put a Shrine into play. I imagine this is so that they can Acerola their Lugia. It does not change the fact that we need to find ourselves a Hustle Belt though. Let's build more spites. I'm not worried about them playing a Mew in this matchup. That's the only reason why you wouldn't like go over the top on your Spiritombs at some points in the game. So we're at 160 damage. I'm gonna get my next Spiritomb down. It's kind of risky to like Guzma it and stuff, but I think I'm gonna Cynthia first to have an 11 card dig for this this Hustle Belt. Do I want to put Viridian in? Not really. This can benefit us. There's Hustle Belt, nice. Now we can Stellar Wish. And we'll slap the Hustle. And we'll Anguish Cry. So first knockout, obviously life does get difficult now. Their counter shenanigans is online. Counter Energy, Counter Catcher. Lieutenant Surge, that's all live for them now. So something to bear in mind, but putting Gears for Lusamine. They probably need to find Faber for Hustle Belt, yeah. Okay. Let's start peppering up these Regigigas. Force these max potions out of the way, force them to Acerola on a turn here or there. Slow their development of Plumeriaing us down. is basically the plan. They get a nice Skull Grunt off. Skull Grunt max pot. We're going to build some more Spite. Essentially, that's what always happens when you're up against stall decks. You just build Spite every turn. Yep, there's an ace. Ancient Crystal. I guess I could consider like Guzma and looking for Hustle Belts, but I don't think we necessarily have to. I think we just keep putting the pressure on turn by turn, make them start burning these max potions real quick. Try and make life awkward for them, because we want to save our Guzmas for when he's trying to stall us, which is right now. Obviously, Lucario and Melmetal can tank even a Hustle Belted Spiritomb with ease, so we'll be two-shotting those, no doubt. Okay. We are constantly pressuring their stuff, which is quite good, you know. We're fairly simplistic in our damage output. We literally just keep announcing attacks against them. So maybe stall isn't all that bad without the techs. I guess we do kind of slowly run them out of max pots and Acerolas. That happened a lot quicker than I thought it would, though. We get a nice start here. We have Jirachi, Spiritomb, Lily, even Ultra Ball at our disposal, so that's looking pretty good. See a Guardian Sylveon tag team. This is a card that we can't one-shot. So that's pretty scary for us. Early pressure isn't necessarily our forte either. Opponent with the Bill's Analysis out the gate. They're going to Pokegear before the Nest Ball? Oh, they're not playing the Nest Ball. Okay. How good is Honchkrow in this matchup? An unfair GX attack does seem like it's pretty valuable, to be fair. It does seem valuable. It's could get rid of some max potions and Acerolas on a key turn. Or just like at any point. I can see myself using it. I can see myself using it. It's not a card that they can one-shot even with Magical Miracle, so seems reasonable. For that reason, I'll attach the Murkrow turn 1. You can build some more Spites. Do I Ultra Ball pre-Stellar Wish? Yeah, I think I do here. We're already holding Stretcher, so I can get rid of these fairly comfortably. We can have a look through our deck. We do have a Honchkrows. We have Oranguru as protection against any magical miracles, which is always great. We've prized one Hustle Belt, which is definitely worth noting for our damage output because they have resistance on us and 260 base hit points. So that's really ugly. I'm just going to grab the monkey pretty proactively here, seeing as though we are supportless currently. And we continue to be draw supporterless. Guzma is something I'll pick up, I think, over anything else here. And we'll just send our opponent's way. Opponent is just going to draw and Fairy Song. Okay, seems pretty good. Let's begin building more spite with our Spiritombs. Stellar Wish. That's a board. Yeah, we'll take the board. I'm just thinking if I want to hit into this Sylveon now. I could Rainbow and Hustle Belt pushes us to 3, 6, 9, 10, 16. 140 thanks to Resist. 140 with Resist means next turn I'd have to find a Rainbow for my other Spiritomb to go 3, 6, 9, 12, 13. 13 down to 11 for a knockout on the bench guy. Or another Hustle Belt. We have prized the Hustle Belt, which is my only worry here. But if he does want to just take the prize with the Gardy in the back, there's like a risk to that as well. So I feel like trying to pressurize here seems like the best move. Yeah, they're going to have to play it safe and Acerola here. Which isn't bad for us, because we're going to get more value from this Spiritomb now. We threaten our next two-shot. They have a Field Blower, which is a worry. They can now Fairy Song. Let's build some Spite. I'm going to attach once again to this Murkrow. And we're just going to Anguish Cry. They're holding on to another Ace, which means they might start coming in with Kaleidostorms now. Yep, they're going to Kaleidostorm. This does feel like a good deck to unfair GX against, though, because they don't have much like of a draw engine outside of possibly Miss Magius. So if we can just like stifle their draw supporters, they're in top deck mode. Oh, we actually draw the Honchkrow as well. Let's Stellar Wish. We're going to Nest Ball out our next Spiritomb. I'm even going to stretch back a Spiritomb as well. It's one matchup where the 120 from Umbreon isn't all that useful. It's just 100 damage because of Resist. So we're just going to try and build Spite across the board. And what do we think about going for an unfair GX this turn? I think it's probably a good move. 3, 6, 7 in hand. They played Acerola back to back. Their Pokegear failed. I think it's our best move. I could attach and get an Instruct Draw in. It's tempting. But I want to really see what our opponent's working with here. So they can Guzma for a prize. They can retreat and attack. Definitely want to get rid of this. I guess I have to get rid of Nest Ball so we can't just get a slow Mismagius going. Just leave him with this stuff. Leave him in top deck mode. Yep, we're going to see a Guzma going after the Jirachi here. So again, the Spiritomb, this one can hit for 140. 140. Opens the door for like a Hustle Belt 2-shot. Alternative is to try and come in with this guy and Featherstorm. Just a 70 and 30. 70 doesn't set up too many good numbers. So I guess we come in with this guy. Build some more spites. Lily's a good draw for us. Let's get the free draw. Lily. No sign of Hustle Belt's really the only kind of issue here. When it draws into the Misdreavus, feels bad, man. And the greens? Oh my god, their top deck and prize was nuts! That is the nuts right there. Unfair play. It's turned out not to be that unfair. The opponent gets switch max pot. Seems pretty ugly for us. You can go ahead and Kaleidostorm. So we're going to thin some of these Nest Balls. We don't want them. Just got to keep an eye on my energy count. We're just going to go ahead and grab our next Spiritomb. Build Spite on all of our guys. And we have to make a decision this turn. Is going for an Anguish Cry for 100 good enough? Or 110? No, it's only 80, right? I don't think that's great. Stellar Wishing for a Guzma on the Misdreavus may not even be that bad, you know? Denying that Mismagius. Seems like they greens for like 2 proactive cards. Hustle Belt. Definitely a card we want to keep an eye on. I think it's actually the Viridian that we take here. It thins for this Lily to be stronger. This hand is really in bad shape. Get rid of that. I have to decide if attacking with Honchkrow is our best move. I think it's the best move. I can instruct for 1 for the potential of Guzma high roll. And we'll just Lily for 4. All the Guzmas just came afterwards, and we've got a pass here. So the opponent's got the opportunity to miss Magius, which is unfortunate for us. To draw some more cards. They have another switch. Feels like they're locked in for the win here. This isn't really a matchup on our scope. We're a Dark Toolbox trying to be an anti-meta style deck, but Guardian's kind of out of the range. This being prized hasn't helped, of course. The opponent is able to Mina for an extra attachment over here. Pokémon fails them, but they can just go for a Kaleidostorm pretty happily here. Yeah, this isn't looking great, folks. We can go build up some more Spite. But I don't see how the opponent isn't taking 2 prizes in the next 2 turns. We're going to have to use our Honchkrow at some point. Maybe now's the point where we have to do it. Our cap of Spiritomb is 220 down to 200 thanks to resist. So if I hit this one, it's actually value. I guess that's what we got to do, huh? That's not part of our scheme. Possibly working towards a what's it called? The stadium is also an out for us. We'll just Featherstorm 70. Puts this one in range of a Hustle Belt Anguish Cry. Any heal at this point is pretty much devastating. It's pretty much just game if he has any heal at this point. We've only seen 1 max pot and 2 ace, so we're probably just going to get bodied here. Looks like Unfair wasn't able to stick long enough. That's pretty much the only thing we had going for us. Trying to cheese any matchup with that Unfair GX attack is pretty cool, but not all that reliable. The opponent conceded against us? That makes no sense. That makes literally no sense. Okay, why though? I mean, they couldn't knock out the Honchkrow that turn. They still could have just retreated into the other one and been fine though, right? Yeah, I think we lost that game. Let's count that was an L, not a W. Let's get another game in though. Let's see, fighting deck box. Even more rogue stuff for us to contend with. Lycanroc Erica. I wonder. This is just a Jirachi Buzzrock. We don't like Buzzwole. Lycanroc Slowking? Okay, so they're trying to be like a anti-meta style deck as well by the looks of things. They're basically like our deck, but with different type coverages. That's what they're trying to be, I guess. Sort of stage 1 toolbox. They're going to nest ball for another Jirachi and get another Stellar Wish going. I think we should be okay in this matchup. I think. We'll see an Ultra Ball off the Stellar Wish. So we have one very aggressive play, which is to just Ultra Ball Guzma and Rainbow a Spiritomb for the first prize of the game. I think that's definitely hyper aggressive when we want to get more basics down. So I think we will be slightly more passive here. I think we're still going to Rainbow out a Spiritomb, but we want to try and play the Lily to find more Spiritombs and any Eevees that we can get down. Maybe a way into Stellar Wish as well would be good. Do I wish to get rid of Guzma with Viridian Forest? Don't think I want to. Well, we get at least one other Spiritomb, which is nice. Don't think I have to be too worried about them playing any spread outside of their own Mew. And our Mew doesn't protect from their Mews, so I think we can just pass here. I could potentially Viridian away the Mew. It plays around like Let Loose and Judge a little bit, but it's bad against... well, it's bad if we draw into Pokécoms, basically. We can just retreat an Anguish Cry for the first prize here, though. Picking up a Stretcher's not too shabby. The good news is, like, we have more Rainbows in hand. We have a couple Guzmas and the Rescue Stretcher, so even though we don't have any draw support in our hand right now, we'll be able to knock out some like little evolving basics and Jirachis for a few turns, even with just a couple damage on our Spiritomb. The opponent attached to their Rockruff, which is pretty good for us. See an Erica's for 3. See Stellar Wish, they're going to grab Counter Gain, so they could GX through Spiritomb if they want to respond on us. They could also... oh no, they can't Psychic, they've attached to Fighting here, right? Let's see an Ultra Ball. Looks like I'm going to go for this Lycanroc play. As mentioned, we don't really mind this. We can one-shot a Lycanroc at some point in the game. It's just how much spite we can build up and try and find Hustle Belt and stuff. So for now, it's probably likely that we're just going to be like Guzma another easy prize here. And try and deal with this Lycanroc later. And it's forced to Dangerous Rogue. Lily's a good draw for us. I think I'll begin to Viridian more stuff away. I'm not concerned about them getting fighting energies out of the deck. They could get like a Baby Buzz or something, but we're knocking out the Jirachi anyway, so they have to like find a way to pivot it and all sorts, so... The only risk about us knocking out the Jirachi this turn is if he double evolves both other guys on the back. We don't have an easy like Guzma Rainbow Energy style play next turn, which is the only like mild concern, but I think it should be fine. The opponent goes back into the Lycanroc. They could like DCE. We are playing E-Hammers, which randomly comes helpful against a matchup like this. They're not in here for this matchup, that's for sure, but they can randomly come in pretty reasonably. Our board state isn't looking phenomenal though. We'd really like to start finding Guru, Jirachis, start developing a little bit more. The Lily does help us on our path, but... The good news is I think it's pretty difficult for them to chain good enough attackers for like Umbreons and stuff. The opponent is able to Ultra Ball out a Rockruff and then just play a Cynthia here. Looks like they're digging for DCE or 3CE. They do find DCE, so they can Claw Slash us. And that's all they're going to do. Okay, I think we're promoting Murkrow here. Benefits of promoting Murkrow is if I find like any Nest Ball, Ultra Ball, I can just do another Guzma easy prize with Spiritomb. Because I'm E-hammering anyway, I think that's fine. I think we might just be E-hammer Lilying anyway this turn. Possibly. Depends on the draw. The Hustle Belt is interesting. I'm going to build Spite. We're always going to E-hammer here. Yeah, we definitely have to Lily. So Hustle Belt Rainbow doesn't seem that good. I think I'll just go Hustle Belt Dark Energy and Lily. How many Guzmas have I played? I've played one. Okay, I'm going to Viridian away this. We just want to have better odds of finding like our 2 Escape Boards and any Bull Search this turn. Looks like a miss from us. If I put the Honchkrow in, he can't attach any DCEs. So he basically can't attack us outside of Lycanroc bringing up the Spiritomb. We have the Black Market as well that I could consider. We've only seen Field Blower from them so far, no Stadium being shown off. So I think this is definitely going to be an irritating Pokemon for them to get through. The Black Market is also an irritation. Which means I don't put down the Oranguru. I can't instruct, and it means that would be like their best Bloodthirsty Eyes target if they can't bounce this. So we'll just pass like this. It's a strange turn from us, just because we've not drawn into any of our Ball Search, but Might be still pretty irritating for the opponent. They seem very reliant on 3CE, DCE, that sort of stuff. They can't counter Stadium the Black Market whilst the Honchkrow is active. So they have to Bloodthirsty Eyes, then counter Stadium if they want to take a prize this turn. It is a shame that it's like our only Spiritomb if it is going to get knocked out this turn. Even if they're not taking a prize off it, it's like our main threat right now. That's the only like worry, I guess. Basic fighting is not enough to knock out anything. They can't attack this turn, so the combo of Honchkrow and Black Market has worked for now, which is nice. Let's see what else they can do, though. Surprised they attached the fighting energy, to be honest. If they were going to be synthering for a new hand, they probably should have risked trying to find like a Lycanroc. Depending on how many they play, but we've seen a lot of Rockruff already. Yeah, they're just going to pass into us. Okay. Let's build some spites. I'm going to attach to the active. It opens up Escape Board. And then we'll just Cynthia. Here we go. Here's our Pokemons. Good news. We finally found some Pokemon. Gonna burn the Nest Ball. And then we're gonna put down Jirachi so I can get an Instruct draw. No luck with the old Escape Board, so we're just gonna have to pass into the active here. I feel like we're still in a pretty good spot. It's actually attaching to the bench. It's another turn where they're not taking a prize? Really? Wow. Okay. Well, they're gonna Twilight Eyes the active. Another turn of no prizes for them. Crazy. Really good for us. Really good for us. Yeah, they're just going to pass. So we can continue to build spites. We could go for a Rainbow Guzma knockout on this with our Spiritomb. I don't hate it at all. I think it seems fine. Again, how many Guzmas have we played? We've played a good amount of Guzmas now, but it's the only surefire way to attack this turn. Guzmaing anything else doesn't seem all that valuable. What's the upside of Guzmaing anything else? The upside is if he comes into attack with either of these, this can build Spite next turn. Like if I just Rainbow this guy instead. Yeah, I think this is safer because we're only instructing for one card. Nothing's guaranteed if the one Spiritomb goes down. So I think we just take out the Slow King, or whatever it is. Oh, I can't because I'm only doing 100. Very good. Let's take out the Ditto then. Let's get our free card. But the Rainbow isn't too shabby at all. Spiritomb from prizes is great. So the opponent probably wants to gust up this one and kill it, because the Hustle Belt's chilling out here. And then we'll probably go into our Jirachi next turn and hope to find a draw supporter. Yep, there's the Bloodthirsty Eyes. Bring up our belted boy. They're also able to bounce the Black Market with a Brooklet. And they're also able to find another Rockruff. Stellar Wish does risk us whiffing an attack. It's like one of the only ways we lose here. I feel like we just rely on the Oranguru here. I feel like that's our best move. Rather than trying to like Stellar Wish, find a switching out, find a draw supporter, find a Hustle Belt for a one-shot, or like our last Guzma, I think we just trust that we can draw into... Like, yeah, we only have 2 boards, 4 draw supporters, a couple energies left. Yeah, I think we're just gonna do this. Do this. Our concern now is if they play any healing. That's our biggest concern. There's a Diancie Prism being thinned from the deck from them. Energy to their next Rockruff. They're just going to retreat, which is worrying because we have prized our last Guzma. They're going to Accelerock here. So we're in a bad spot now for sure. Maybe I had to be greedier earlier. It's kind of dependent on a couple things. Our E-Hammer's still in deck, which is something. They haven't played any Guzmas yet, though. This is real bad for us, huh? Not sure really what I can do here. I can build Spite Attack. He's just 2 attacks away from game though, and I can't really deny that in any way. Yeah, we're going to keep this one up. That's a super weird loss for us. Super weird game. I have to look back at that. I mean, our start was pretty jank. Just the fact that you're living off of 2 Spiritombs is just super bad. We weren't able to develop more building spites for the late game push. Like, if we just had a 3rd Spiritomb, either from like our prizes earlier, or just any supporter or ball search card in those opening like 4 turns, rather than just having to Guzma for prizes, we could have had an extra Spiritomb building spite for one-shots, but we never quite got there. Ah, that sucks. Should be a really good matchup for us, that. Whiffing on like all of these as well early on. Basically just the deck wasn't cooperating in those opening turns, which sucks. My cargo. Shrine. What is this deck now? Granbull. Okay. Granbull should probably be a difficult matchup for us. So Umbreon's not fantastic unless we're knocking out things with Guzma. We have all 3 Hustle Belts. We have 3 Guzmas. Okay. We can Lily for the fresh 8 here. We want to get Spiritomb as quickly as possible. Pull out our Dark Energy. Stellar Wish. Now I guess we take an Eevee. Opens up lots of Guzma plays for knocking out Magcargo and stuff, which is nice. We've got to build up our Spite. And do I want to attach? Don't think I do, you know. Don't think I want to. I don't think it's mandatory that we have to. I think we'll just hold it and see what our opponent is able to come up with this turn. They only got down a Snubble. They had no supporter. Now they have a Red's challenge. They have Granbull. Viridian gets rid of Stretcher. They have a Rope, which I guess gets rid of our Monkey. All of these are too important to say no to, I'd say. Surprising that they chose to take an Energy. I guess they're trying to improve their top decks for next turn. Drawing a Guzma's good. It's basically what I was going to Stellar Wish for, so... Now, he's playing the 80 hit point Slugma, which means we probably have to use a Retaliate here. Which is fine. I'll take our next Hustle Belt. Seems important. So our opponent only needs 1 playable card because the Viridian is going to help them out here, but they really want to try and find like Apricorn Maker or something like that. Any Oranguru is a good draw for them. Any Nest Ball. Oh, they also play the 70 hit point Slugmas. Okay. Yeah, that's a pretty good 2 cards for them. They're going to instruct. They want their next Snubble. They can Viridian away Diantha. And no backup Snubble is really good for us. So the Hustle Belt will be taking a knockout here. We already have the Escape Board. We have the energies. Stellar Wish. The next Nest Ball sounds good. For our next one of these. We always want to have backup Spiritombs. Don't think there's a need to play the Cynthia. It would only really be for like Guzma for next turn, if they're able to find only like one Snubble, but I don't think it's mandatory. I'd rather just hold on to this Hustle Belt rather than get punished by like playing it down than playing a Cynthia. Don't think it's mandatory. It's they do pick up Apricorn, which can get them Nest Ball for like Ditto plus Snubble. They can instruct for a couple cards. Energy to Snubble, and it's our go. Nice, a free turn to build some more Spites is always good. They're not a deck that plays Mew, so we'll build Spite one more time. Actually, they can play Mew, but even if they did, like, it'll only take one prize currently with our board. I can Lily for 2 here. Can Viridian. And dealing with that Oranguru is also pretty helpful. We go ahead in the race, which is always something we like to see. We just see the all-out finish us off. We can Nest Ball out Eevee, we can Stretcher back Spiritomb. Build up some more Spite on our dudes. So if I Hustle Belt here, it means he can't Magma Ring for a knockout. So I guess we do that. I'll go ahead and grab a Dark Energy for this Eevee as well while I'm at it. And we'll just Cynthia. Can deck thin some more. Stellar Wish. By not building Spite the final time, it means he actually needs to find Energy Gramble at the very least. See the Apricorn Maker that can get him Ultra Ball. Viridian can get him the Gramble. Oh wow, no Ultra Ball though. Get a great ball out of Monkey. Nest for a Snubble. They were already holding Ultra. They can grab that Gramble, they can instruct them Viridian whatever they want for an energy card. They're just going to go all out. It's a good thing we've been semi-playing around Mew. More Viridian. No thinning to be had. Just get rid of it from our deck. Let's build Spite. Stellar Wish to see if there's a Guzma here. There he is. think I just want to Guzma the Slugma. Feels like we're in a spot where we basically can't lose, but we'll see. We'll build Spite one more time. I think I can, yeah. They just concede. Alright, well, that's Spiritomb Honchkrow. We didn't face much of the top tier stuff. So it's really down to you to see how you can tackle your Weezing and Zoroark matchups with the help of that Honchkrow. And when you're up against tag teams, try and build Spite as much as possible. I think we had one game, that game against the Lycanroc deck, where our board never really came to fruition. It was pretty rare that we missed like a lot of stuff in our opening turns, so that can just happen sometimes, but usually with Stellar Wish and Instruct, you have a bit of a safeguard against that. In all those other matchups, we were drawing pretty well, to be honest. But that's kind of the nature of this deck. It doesn't require much to get rolling. Just the abilities of the Spiritombs ticking over the entire time. So let me know what you guys think about this list and the archetype. Is it a real contender for NAIC, or is it just going to be kept in the shadows thanks to Zapdos still being very popular and powerful? I'll hear it all down below. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in another video tomorrow. Cheers.